morning, everyone. It's Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Equine Sanctuary. Today is Sunday, March 22nd, 2020, and I filmed several training sessions tonight with several of our Morelia bredli and a couple of honorary bredli. I just wanted to do a quick intro and tell you that you're going to see target training in all of these training sessions, and that there are several reasons why I target train the snakes. I started target training the snakes because I had a snake that was extremely fearful of basically everything, and I wanted a way to work with her to help slowly desensitize her to my presence and to activity around her, and I really needed a way to get her to shift out of her enclosure so that I could do enclosure maintenance and clean it. And that's one of the reasons why many zoos do target training for several different species of animals, including reptiles. So that is one of the reasons that I do the target training here, is to have a hands-off method of shifting the snakes out of their enclosure when I need to clean it or do enclosure maintenance. Also, as an animal trainer in general, it's always challenging and fun and interesting to see how many different species of animals you can train. And I was very, very pleased to see that I had success training that first snake, and it just took off from there. The other reasons that I target train are to calm overreactive feeding responses. That has worked phenomenally well for our Antaresia childreni. Our children's python had a really, really aggressive feeding response, and since he has been target trained, I can just open his enclosure 24/7 and get him out with my hands, because he knows he's not going to eat unless he sees that target. But if he sees that target, even if I'm carrying the target around and he happens to see it, he immediately gets into feeding mode, and he's a great feeder. I also target train the snakes as a way to find them. So one of the snakes that I fed tonight, I wasn't sure where he was. In fact, that was the Russian rat snake. And when I stuck the target near or in his enclosure, he appeared. It's important, obviously, that the snakes see the target or they're not able to respond to that visual cue. But once they see the target and they know what it means, then they'll come out of a hide, or they'll come out from under substrate, or they'll come down from a perch, or from wherever they're at. They will just show up when they see that target. The target training is also good for other reasons. It gives the snake some mental stimulation as well as some physical stimulation, because I'm typically having them move from one location to another, whether it's within their enclosure, from a hide, out of hiding, or totally out of their enclosure to another area. I also believe that target training is a great way to build trust between you and your animal, and in this case, it has done wonders to build trust between some of the snakes and me. Sometimes I target the snakes for no other reason than I'm just going to feed them, and I want them to practice and stay in the habit of eating when they see that target and not eating at other times. If you have any questions about target training, any animals, because I do work with other animals, but specifically target training snakes, feel free to contact me at behavioreducationllc@gmail.com, or you can reach me through Behavior Education or Spirit Keeper Equine Sanctuary on Facebook, Instagram, or either of the websites for those organizations.
This is our coastal carpet python 005, and he will be 2 years old in April of 2020. He's being very cautious during this target training session because he had a little bit of a mishap last time, but he's one of our very experienced snakes at target training, both within and outside of his enclosure. This is Tanavik, a 2.5-year-old Morelia bredli, and he is very experienced at target training. As you can see, he wasted no time recognizing that that target was there and following it wherever I moved it. This is a 2.5-year-old Morelia bredli named Gaharis, and he's relatively new to target training. I didn't get him until he was just a little bit older, and so far he's targeting pretty well within his enclosure, and as you see here, he's targeting out of hiding, but he's not yet targeting out of his enclosure. This Morelia bredli is named Zahia, and I have not had her a year yet. She is 2.5 years old, and I at first station trained her. So she is used to coming out of her enclosure onto a station or onto a tub. And I've only shown her the target and paired it with food 2 other times. So this is her 3rd time doing an actual target training session. And as you could see, she already started to exit the enclosure on her own because that is something that she's used to. But I was very pleased to see that once she saw the target and took notice of it, that she moved in its direction, for the most part stayed engaged with it, and then she received a food reward. This is our little Russian rat snake Sargon, and he's only 7 months old. He picked up target training extremely quickly, and when I first went to his enclosure and opened the door, I didn't know where he was. It's evident from the camera's angle where he was, but where I was standing, I couldn't see him up there on the top. As soon as he noticed the target and moved his head in its direction, I then obviously knew where he was. And he wastes no time following that target whatsoever, and this is pretty typical of him. Every time that I work with him, he notices the target, immediately moves towards it, and is happy to get his food reward. This is Saleya. She's a Morelia bredli that is 2.5 years old, and she's only been with me 4 months. So she is extremely new to target training, and this is just her 3rd time with me pairing the target with food. She's not exiting her enclosure yet, and she isn't moving around very much inside of her enclosure, but she certainly is getting the idea to follow the target in order to get her food reward. Telemachus regularly exits his enclosure for exercise and exploration, and he is new to target training, but certainly recognized what that target meant when he saw it tonight. Steuben is our 10-year-old children's python who is very good at target training. He's very fast at following that target. He knows exactly what it means, and he keeps me on my toes as a trainer. This is Sunny, our 10-year-old cornsnake, and he is relatively new to target training. You can really teach an old snake new tricks. However, I don't think he's 100% on board with exactly what the target means yet. He is starting to move in its direction, and so right now I'm just pairing it with food. Anytime he looks at it, tongue flicks at it, or moves in that direction. This is Captain Pike. He's a 2.5-year-old Morelia bredli, and he has starred in several of his own target training videos before. He is one of my most experienced snakes with target training, and he really caught on to it quickly, and he caught onto it very well. He not only targets out of hiding or within his enclosure, but he targets all the way out of his enclosure to a station, and that's extremely convenient for me when I want him to have extra exercise or when I want him out of the enclosure so that I can do enclosure maintenance or cleaning. He seemed a little sluggish to me tonight and was moving quite a bit more slowly than normal. He just recently shed and he hadn't eaten in a while, so I don't know if he was just feeling sluggish for those reasons or if he was preoccupied with something. But despite that, he still stayed true to his training and he targeted out of hiding. I didn't get that part on video because he was in that coconut hide and I couldn't position the camera where you could see him coming out of hiding to follow the target. But then he proceeds to follow the target as I'm asking him to, out of his enclosure and onto the station. Typically what I like to do is have him traverse the entire surface of the station and hang his head off the opposite side to get in sort of an ambush position for when I deliver his reinforcement, which is the food reward. He was going slowly tonight, and so I didn't make him get in a full ambush position, and I did not wait for his tail to exit the enclosure, although he's certainly out of the enclosure enough that I can move the station and easily get to the enclosure if I needed to clean it or do maintenance.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to always be kind and love your animals.